What's up, everybody? It's Coach Dimes here. Looking forward to breaking down Game 1 of the Suns pick and roll with you guys. So I went through and got some stats real quick on the game, and here's what we got so far. So there were 26 pick and roll possessions that led to a shot, and of those 26, the Suns only scored on 9 of those. So 35% of the time, where they're scoring out of the pick and roll. You see in the little right-hand corner, first half they were 0 for 11, and then second half they were 9 to 15. So we'll go through the film by player and by half. We'll see what the difference was between the first half and second half. The different coverages, they were in switch, 58% of the time. They only scored on 3 of those 15 possessions when they were in switch. They're a lot more effective against the drop. Scored every time when they tried to get trapped or blitzed them. And then, as expected, Chris Paul had the majority of the other pick and roll possessions, followed by Booker, who struggled, who's only 1 for 8. And a majority of their pick and roll came from the middle, but they were very effective on the right side of the floor. Now, between the first and second half, first half they only saw switch, and then in the second half the Bucks changed their coverage and went more drop, tried to trap a couple times and mix it up. So they didn't do as much switching in the second half, but Suns were 0 for 11 the first half against the switch. So interesting that they decided to switch it up. So let's start here with Chris Paul in the first half versus switch. One thing to notice here is Chris Paul, for whatever reason, the first half was very passive. He would take one dribble, pick it up after the pick and roll the majority of the time, which was interesting to see. So you see here, takes one dribble, picks it up, throws it over the top. And then if you've watched Phoenix Suns basketball, you know that should have been one more pass. You look at Crowder right now, he's upset he didn't get the one more. But if we go back and watch this here, again, let's start with looking at when they come off the ball screen. Chris Paul, again, he's going to take one dribble, picks it up. And he does this a majority of the first half, which is interesting. One dribble, picks it up. Yes, Ayton's open, but again, you'll see throughout the film that he only takes one dribble. Those are over the top. Now, if you're a Suns fan, you know that typically this pass comes out, right? That ball's going one more, especially to Crowder, who shot the ball well all season throughout the playoffs. But Booker keeps it, and instead, dribble pull-up, contested jumper, an air ball, instead of just swinging the ball one more to Jay Crowder. Next possession, this time they come down, and you'll notice, again, they're in switch. So when they set the screen, Giannis switches on to CP3, and Connaughton's switching on to Ayton. Now, they picked on Connaughton a lot throughout the playoffs and switches, so I'm really surprised that, Chris Paul didn't just dribble back right over this way, right, and throw it right into Ayton. Now, one thing you'll say is, well, there's a lot of lob help. Well, what they did throughout the series was, if they were fronting Ayton on a switch and the help came from this deep corner over here with him, what they would do is they'd take their corner man and flash him right to the nail, and they'd throw it to the nail, and then they'd go high-low right there. So they would punish this man right here, in this case Tucker, they'd punish him by flashing his man to the nail, they'd throw it in, he'd have to engage, and they go high-low on the front and get a bucket. So they did that multiple times throughout the series, but I'm very surprised at this point in the game, Chris Paul did not come right back and throw that thing right into Ayton. Instead, again, he takes that one dribble, picks it up, and then just kind of a scramble play where they get nothing out of it. So again, it's weird that Chris Paul is just kind of being so passive in this first half. Next one here, they come off the throw it back to CP3. They set a ball screen, and again, he takes one dribble and picks the ball up. I would love to see him just be more aggressive versus switch. Try and get to his spots. There's a mismatch somewhere. So instead of just picking the ball up right away and getting stuck, I'd love to see him kind of probe a little more, just be more aggressive. They throw it over the top, it's a turnover. Again, he takes one dribble, picks it up, just kind of, throws it up over there. So it was interesting, again, just to kind of see that. The last one here, they switch. Chris Paul's a little more aggressive this time through, goes to attack. Lopez, he's in rhythm, gets to a spot, he misses. But I'm okay with the shot. I'd much rather see him do this shot than just take one dribble, pull it up. So this time he actually comes off with some pace, tries to get downhill, attack the big, gets to a spot. He's in rhythm. Lopez isn't bothering Chris right here. He's doing what he wants to do. He's in his bag. He's just comfortable. So when he pulls up, he's comfortable to pull up, just misses the shot. But this was kind of a turning point because he chose to become more aggressive in the pick and roll in the second half, because of this. So again, I'm comfortable with him shooting that. He gets to a spot, he's being aggressive. I'd much rather see that than him take the one dribble, pick it up, and just kind of pass out of it. Now we'll look at Booker in the first half versus switch. So first time through, so their first possession of the game, they're going to come through here and they're going to switch it off. So right now it's Drew's on Booker, they switch it off to PJ, and they switch it right off to Lopez. So they do a good job of switching defensively. You'll notice here Crowder's spacing is really bad. So he's up on the three-point line here. I would like to see him more on the sideline, which you'll see in the next clip. Because what this does is it takes away any driving lane he had. So if Booker wanted to attack Lopez, he couldn't because there's no space to do so. So what does Booker have to do? He has to settle for a pull-up three. The next clip you'll see here, Booker comes a little bit more pace this time. And you see the one big thing here like we talked about. Now look at Crowder. Right now he's on the sideline. His spacing is so much better. You're going to see Booker's going to actually have a chance to have a driving lane to get downhill because of the better spacing with Crowder. So he's going to get downhill here, and then they're going to draw help, kick, corner three. You know, this is a great possession for them. Did the ball go in? No, but it's a great pick and roll possession for them. So going back here, right, because of Crowder's spacing, right, Booker's able to get 1, 2 dribbles, and he's going to get all the way into the paint, right? We'll see in a clip a little bit later where Booker has to pick his dribble a little earlier than this, but because he's able to get that second dribble, right, you see Holiday has to come all the way from over here all the way in. So when Booker makes his pass, you get 1, 2, 3, 4 bucks all around the basketball. So that pass out to Chris in the corner is a great look. As you know, in the NBA, that's a high commodity shot, especially wide open like that. So this is a great possession for them, even though it didn't go in. And it started with some spacing, be able to get downhill, not coming in from a standstill. So although they didn't score in the first half on the pick and roll, they did have a couple good possessions where Chris Paul tried to get to a spot, and they had a nice little drive and kick three there. So second half, what changes, right? Well, one, they saw a lot less switching, but let's see how they attack the switch in the second half. So here's Chris Paul's look in the second half. One thing you'll notice, they're starting to pick up earlier, so they set a screen a little bit higher, but at least Chris takes 2 dribbles here. So, I mean, yes, we're at half court, but still, he takes 2 dribbles. So he goes 1 and 2 and actually gets some separation in space, and he'll throw it over the top to Cam Johnson for a basket, right? But what I find interesting is if you watch this full speed, he's just so, just casual with the ball. So they'll set that screen, he just kind of lobs it up. Like Holiday almost gets that pass right there, and it works out in the end. But again, it's just that I don't know. I didn't like how just casual he was in the pick and roll. Booker in the second half, both of his switches were against double drag. So you'll see here, they'll switch it all the way out. So right now, PJ's on Booker, so he interchanges with Chris. He gets handed off to Drew. Here they're going to pass it out. And it's at 2 screens here. So now Booker gets handed off to Connaughton, and then he gets handed off to Giannis. So Milwaukee does a great job of switching, the ball handler. They do a poor job of switching the screener. So when Ayton dives here, he's going to take 2 guys with him because they weren't able to communicate the switch on the double screen. So Ayton takes 2, right? So Ayton's got 2 guys right here pulling to the lane. They also kick back here to Crowder for a wide open 3. Okay, next time, Booker comes off again. This time again off 2 screens. So right now they're going to switch them off to Connaughton, switch them off to Giannis off the second one. Okay, and then again the little miscommunication, or they get hung up on the switch there. Ayton's able to take Connaughton to the paint with him, and Booker swings it over to Bridges. Now, nice little look here. What I would love to have seen Bridges do. Okay. You swing this here, you're open, you see him, he's late, right? Boom, shot fake, right? Shot fake, side dribble, keep a 3-3, but simple shot fake, 1 dribble to the side, okay, and shoot that thing. I'd rather him do that than throw up this contested 3 because he has the advantage. I mean, he's out of position, he's late, let him jump and fly by and keep the ball on the ground. Okay, but again, I think that Milwaukee was able to switch the ball handler, but they did a tough job switching on the screener, especially in that double screen, both times with Booker there. So, like I said, they switched up their coverage a little bit, so let's look at the times they tried to trap Chris Paul. We get a bucket out of both of these ones. So as we go through here, you'll see they're going to set that screen. They trap, and then Ayton gets a free lane to the rim here, right? You can see he has got a there is nobody in the paint. So when Ayton dives here, okay, we get a nice easy look. Okay, Cunnington's going to be late, and I'll show you what they did was Crowder started here, and they brought him to the other side, and Bridges actually sets like a little fake screen, so when Chris comes off to the right, they're looking for a shooter. Well, even that little false action gets Cunnington to have to multitask, and it puts him to be in a late position for the tag and the roll man. So when you watch at full speed, watch Cunnington. Crowder's going to empty out over here. Okay, Crowder's about to empty out, but watch him. Watch his head. Watch him communicate. Watch him have to be occupied while Ayton rolls to the rim. Because he's occupied having to communicate a defensive coverage, he's late to the roll man. Looking back and forth, talking to PJ, talking it out. Uh-oh, now I'm late. Now it's a basket. Again, this time when they trap, the tag should have came from Holiday. Should have been a high tag. But he just kind of chicken wings him, doesn't get a full tag in there, and then he rolls freely to the rim. Cunnington has no chance other than to foul. Again, they did a nice job of spacing here on offense. Okay, and then when they go to trap it, boom, you can see Holiday kind of chicken wings him. He probably should have fully unstopped him and tagged him, but he doesn't. It allows him to get to the rim on the run, no choice but to foul. So both times they try to trap CP3, the Suns get a bucket. Now we'll look at drop coverage, where Phoenix was 3 for 5 against the drop. They torched the drop versus Denver. So I was curious as to why they decided to switch it up here. So first one here. Love that Chris Paul's much more aggressive this time. So they're in drop coverage. You'll see Lopez is sitting back. Chris does his thing. He snakes, it gets to a spot, pulls up. And we've seen that all playoffs long. So I love that he's more aggressive, didn't just take the one dribble and stopped. I'm sure the drop coverage versus switch, gave him some confidence to get downhill a little bit. But it was nice to see him get to his spot there. This time, okay, same thing. They're in drop coverage. Booker lifts and kind of gets his man in the way. So what I mean by that is when you watch CP3 come off the snake here, okay, Booker's right here in the corner. He should stay in the corner because Ayton's going to set the screen, and then Chris is going to snake it to a spot right here. Well, if Booker were to stay and Drew wants to help up, right, it's a back cut right for a layup. Or if Drew stays home with his man, CP3 gets some space to shoot that basketball. Well, what happens is, as he comes off the snake, you can see Booker starting to lift. Well, as he's lifting, he snakes back over. Okay, now Drew's contesting from behind. So he's got Tucker contesting from the front, Holiday contesting from behind. It's a tough shot for Chris Paul. But if Booker would have just stayed spaced, Chris has more space here to shoot that. He would have been shooting that just fine. But Holiday comes from behind, it's tough. And then if Holiday were to sneak up, Booker could have just back cut to the rim. So if Booker would have stayed in the corner here, a little bit better spacing. But again, I love that Chris Paul is being aggressive against the drop. Last one here. It's more of an in transition, setting a drag screen. But again, they're in drop coverage. And you'll notice the dribble count for Chris goes up again. So he comes down here. Let's count it out. He does a great job of getting Tucker on his heels here. We set a nice screen. So we get 1, 2, all the way into the paint. Now Lopez has to engage. Simple lob over the top to Ayton for the basket. Now, if Chris would have came off this one dribble, picked it up like he's been doing in the first half, completely different story. But because he's got some confidence going, he's getting downhill. Okay, gets him going. 1, 2. Again, that second dribble is what makes this lob happen. If he takes one dribble and stops right here, nothing happens. But because of the second dribble, Lopez engages. Now he's able to lob it up. So now the pass is coming from the paint, deep paint touch, versus the first half, all of Chris Paul's passes were coming almost at the three-point line because he was only taking a single dribble out of the pick and roll action. Now we'll look at Booker versus the drop. He had a couple drop coverages against him the second half. First time through, you'll see they're in drop, so he goes to attack it. And then what we're talking about here, as I said in the first half, we got those two dribbles to get to the paint because of spacing. Again, Crowder's space is not where it should be. So as he comes off the ball screen here, okay, yes, we have 3 on the side over there, but if you look at Crowder's right here, so his man is right here. So now when Booker tries to turn the corner here, right, you'll see Cunnington gets his hands in there, and he has to pick the ball up early. So because he picks the ball up early, he's never able to get Giannis to step fully into the paint where he can kick this pass out to Bridges in the corner because he picks his dribble up so early. So you'll see here, Cunningham gets his hand in. So now Booker has to pick the ball. If he tries to dribble through that, it's going to be a turnover. So he has to pick the ball up, takes his 2 steps. Giannis never has to commit. Well, now I have to go up with the ball. If Jay Crowder spaced out just a tiny bit more, right, space out a tiny bit more, or tries to at least engage him a little bit and allow Booker to get that second dribble in, now Giannis has to commit. Now we kick out to the corner 3. It's a completely different ballgame. But again, Crowder's spacing when Booker trying to get to the rim wasn't the greatest, and so he has to pick that ball up a little bit early. Picks it up early, 1-2, gets stuck, has to go up with it. But I do like he's being aggressive trying to get to the rim. The second one, okay, when he gets set up here, a little in transition, right? But again, they're in drop coverage, and he's able to get downhill. They flip the angle last second. Booker's able to get to a spot, okay? And he gets right to where he needs to be for a basket. Now, difference here, right? Look at Chris Paul's spacing, okay? CP3 is way over here at the 45. He's on the NBA Finals logo. You know, Tucker's got to stay a little bit more attached. But if you notice, Tucker is here versus the previous play when Jay Crowder was standing here and the defender was here. It's hard to tell on the spacing, but he's top of the key where Tucker's outside the circle. So, again, spacing here versus here makes the biggest difference as far as allowing Booker to get to a spot against the drop coverage. So he gets to a spot, pull up, basket. And again, I liked Phoenix much better in transition. We're getting downhill here, right? They just come off a little bit more pace. They're smart with it, able to turn the angle. He snakes it, and they did a great job of getting to the basket there. So, all in all, I'm interested to see what they do in Game 2. It'll be fun to see what kind of adjustments both teams make. You know, again, Suns struggled early in that switch. They were 0 for 11 in the first half. I think it came a lot from just not really attacking the paint and some poor spacing and some different opportunities. As soon as Milwaukee switched up their coverage, started going drop and blitzing, it gave the Suns some confidence to get to the bucket. So I'm looking forward to Game 2 and see what you guys think.